My sister schemed to steal my lottery winnings, but my dead grandfather had other plans. I, 32, male, come from a family that always valued appearances over everything else. My parents, particularly my mother, were obsessed with projecting an image of success and perfect family harmony to our small, affluent community. My older sister, Clara, 35, female, was the golden child. She was beautiful, effortlessly charming, and excelled at everything she touched, or so it seemed from the outside. I, on the other hand, was always the quiet, artistic one, content to live in Clara's shadow, or rather, pushed into it. My parents constantly compared us, always finding me lacking. "Why can't you be more like Clara?" was a frequent refrain, echoing through my childhood. It created a deep-seated resentment in me that I tried to ignore, but it festered over the years that my relationship with my grandfather, my mother's father, was the one bright spot in my early life. He was a gruff, no-nonsense man, a retired mechanic who smelled perpetually of oil and sawdust. He saw through the family's facade and genuinely appreciated my quirks and artistic inclinations. He encouraged my drawing, bought me sketchbooks and art supplies, and would spend hours talking to me about everything from car engines to classical literature. He was my confidant, my mentor, and the only person in my family who made me feel truly seen and loved for who I was. He passed away when I was 18, and it felt like the world had lost its color. His death hit me hard, and I retreated even further into myself, pouring my grief into my art. My parents, ever focused on their image, barely acknowledged my pain, instead urging me to move on and be strong for Clara, who was, of course, outwardly composed. After graduating from college with an art degree that my parents openly disparaged, "What are you going to do with that? Paint starving artists." I moved to a different city, several states away. I wanted to escape the suffocating atmosphere of my childhood home and forge my own path, far from Clara's gleaming shadow and my parents' critical gaze. I worked a series of odd jobs, saving every penny, and eventually landed a position as a graphic designer for a small startup. It wasn't glamorous, but it allowed me to use my skills and, more importantly, to live independently. I rarely visited home, and our phone calls were usually superficial, punctuated by my mother's thinly veiled criticisms of my career choices and my lack of ambition. One dreary Tuesday evening, after a particularly exhausting day at work, I stopped at a convenience store to grab a microwave meal and, on a whim, bought a lottery ticket. I had never played before, but something about the shiny, colorful scratch-off caught my eye. I scratched it in my apartment later that night, half-heartedly, not expecting anything. When the numbers revealed themselves, my heart stopped. I checked it again, and then a third time, my hands trembling. I had won. A significant amount. Enough to change my life. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. For weeks, I kept my winnings a secret. I consulted with a financial advisor, paid off my student loans, and made a few smart investments. I also set up a trust fund, ensuring my future was secure. I didn't want my family to know. I knew how they would react, especially Clara and my mother. They would see it as their opportunity to finally fix me, to mold me into the successful, image-conscious son they always wanted. Or worse, they would see it as a resource to be exploited, a way to further their own grand schemes. The thought of their reaction filled me with dread. However, secrets have a way of unraveling. I had purchased a modest but beautiful loft apartment in a more upscale part of the city, and while I wasn't flaunting my wealth, the subtle changes in my lifestyle eventually became noticeable. I treated myself to a new, reliable car, something I had always dreamed of. I started wearing slightly nicer clothes, and I wasn't constantly stressed about money. My parents, through their network of acquaintances, eventually heard whispers of my improved circumstances. My mother called, her voice dripping with feigned concern. "Oh, darling, we heard you've been doing so well. Are you finally getting that promotion we always talked about?" I deflected, vaguely mentioning a successful project at work and some smart investments. She wasn't fooled, but she didn't press. "Not yet. The inevitable confrontation happened during a family gathering. My parents had insisted I come home for my father's birthday, a rare occasion I couldn't gracefully avoid. The tension was palpable from the moment I walked in. Clara, always the first to sniff out a secret, cornered me in the kitchen. Her eyes, usually sparkling with artificial warmth, were now sharp and calculating. "So, little brother, what's this I hear about your sudden windfall? Are you holding out on us?" I tried to play it down, but she wouldn't let up. She had always been relentless when she wanted something. Finally, exasperated, I admitted to winning the lottery, downplaying the amount significantly. I said it was a modest sum, enough to buy a nice apartment and make some investments, nothing life-changing. I thought that would satisfy her. I was wrong. My mother, who had been lurking in the periphery, swooped in. Her smile was tight, her eyes glinting with an unsettling mix of triumph and greed. "Oh, that's wonderful, dear. We always knew you had it in you. Now, imagine what this could do for the family. Clara has been struggling with her boutique, you know. It would be a wonderful investment for her business." And there it was. The entitlement, the assumption that my money was their money. The years of resentment surged through me. I calmly, but firmly, explained that my winnings were my own and that I had already made plans for them. This did not go over well. The family harmony facade cracked, then shattered. My mother started crying dramatically, accusing me of being selfish and ungrateful. Clara, with her usual calculated charm, tried a different tactic. She pulled me aside, her voice soft and persuasive. "Look, I know you're feeling overwhelmed, but think of it as a family investment. My boutique could be huge, and then we'd all benefit. It's about helping each other, isn't it?" I stood my ground, refusing to budge. The argument escalated, becoming a shouting match. My father, who usually tried to mediate, just sat there, looking uncomfortable, but ultimately siding with my mother and Clara. They accused me of betraying the family, of turning my back on them after all they had done for me. It was a familiar narrative, one I had heard countless times before. I finally walked out, disgusted and heartbroken. I vowed then and there that I would never give them a penny. The next few months were a nightmare. My mother launched a full-scale emotional assault, calling me daily, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. Clara joined in, sending me long, passive-aggressive emails about how much they needed my help and how I was letting the family down. They even enlisted distant relatives to call me, subtly pressuring me to reconsider. I blocked their calls, ignored their emails, and cut off contact with anyone who tried to manipulate me. It was incredibly painful, but I knew I had to protect myself and my newfound financial independence. Then came the legal threats. They consulted with a lawyer, claiming that because I had received financial support from them in the past, which, for the record, was minimal and always came with strings attached, they were entitled to a portion of my winnings. It was a baseless claim, but it was enough to cause me immense stress and force me to hire my own lawyer. My lawyer assured me that their case was flimsy at best, but the legal battle was draining, both financially and emotionally. One day, amidst the legal wrangling, I received a cryptic letter from a law firm I didn't recognize. It was addressed to me, but the return address was a small town several hours away, near where my grandfather had lived. Curious, I opened it. Inside was a formal notification about the probate of an estate. My grandfather's estate. This immediately struck me as odd. My grandfather had passed away over a decade ago, and I had been present at the reading of his will. He had left everything he owned to my grandmother, who had passed away a few years after him, and then to my mother. There had been no mention of me in his will, which, while disappointing, hadn't surprised me at the time. My mother had always controlled access to his affairs, and I just assumed that was how it was that I called the law firm named in the letter, my mind racing. The lawyer on the other end, a kind-sounding woman named Ms. Evans, informed me that a previously unknown codicil to my grandfather's will had been discovered. She explained that it had been sealed and stored by his previous lawyer, with explicit instructions not to open it until certain conditions were met, or after a specific period of time had passed, whichever came first. The specific period of time had just passed. Ms. Evans explained that my grandfather, being a pragmatic and somewhat distrustful man, had anticipated potential family squabbles and had taken precautions to ensure his true wishes were carried out. I made an appointment to meet with Ms. Evans. The drive to the small town felt surreal. I wondered what my grandfather could have possibly put in a secret codicil. When I arrived at her office, Ms. Evans greeted me warmly. She was an elderly woman with kind eyes and a gentle demeanor. She explained that my grandfather had been a shrewd man and had been very concerned about how his wealth would be handled, especially by my mother and Clara. He had a deep love for me, she said, and had always been proud of my artistic pursuits, even if my parents weren't. She then pulled out a thick, yellowed envelope. Your grandfather, she began, was a man of foresight. He was aware of certain dynamics within your family. He loved you very much, and he wanted to ensure you were taken care of, especially if your parents tried to control your inheritance or if you ever came into a large sum of money independently. My jaw dropped. The implications of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. My grandfather, from beyond the grave, had anticipated this exact scenario. He had known. She then read aloud from the codicil. It stated, in clear and unequivocal terms, that should I ever come into a significant amount of money independently, specifically mentioning lottery winnings or a large inheritance from an outside source, and should my immediate family attempt to claim or control those funds through legal or coercive means, then a substantial portion of his estate, which had been held in a separate, undisclosed trust, would immediately transfer to me. The amount was staggering. It wasn't just a small sum, it was a substantial portion of his considerable wealth, money that my mother had always assumed was hers. The codicil explicitly stated that this portion was intended to ensure my name's financial independence and to protect him from the predatory tendencies of certain family members. The language was incredibly blunt, almost vindictive, and it left no doubt as to his feelings. He had basically called my mother and Clara out posthumously. Furthermore, the codicil stipulated that if the conditions were met, my portion of the estate would be immediately disbursed to me, along with a letter detailing my grandfather's reasoning. The remaining portion of his estate, which had been left to my mother, would then be subject to a review. If it was determined that she had acted in bad faith regarding my inheritance or my financial independence, then a significant portion of her share would be reallocated to various charities, specifically one supporting young artists, chosen by me. I was speechless. My grandfather, the gruff, loving man who taught me how to change a tire and appreciate a good landscape painting, had orchestrated this intricate, posthumous revenge. He had known, all along, how my family operated. He had known their greed, their manipulative tendencies, and he had protected me, even from the grave. Ms. Evans then handed me a sealed letter. Your grandfather wanted you to read this privately, she said, her voice soft. I drove home in a daze, the sealed letter clutched in my hand. When I finally sat down in my apartment, I tore open the envelope. The handwriting was familiar, a little shaky but still legible, just like I remembered from his old mechanic's notebooks. The letter began, "My dearest grandson, if you are reading this, it means that those vultures have finally shown their true colors. I always knew they would. Your mother, bless her heart, has always been more concerned with what others think than with what is right. And Clara, well, Clara has always known how to get what she wants. I saw how they treated you, my boy, always pushing you aside, never appreciating your unique spirit. I couldn't stand by and let them strip you of your hard-earned success, especially if you managed to achieve it on your own terms. I wanted you to have something that was truly yours, something they couldn't touch. This money, my boy, is for you. Use it wisely, pursue your passions, and never let anyone dim your light. And if they come sniffing around, remind them that some things are worth more than money, like integrity and a grandfather's love." Tears streamed down my face as I read his words. It was a bittersweet moment, a wave of grief for his loss mixed with overwhelming gratitude for his unwavering love and foresight. He had been my guardian angel, even in death. The next day, armed with the codicil and my grandfather's letter, my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to my parents' lawyer, along with a copy of the newly discovered codicil. The reaction was swift and furious. My mother called me, her voice shrill with rage, not tears this time. "How dare you? You manipulative little snake. You and your deceased grandfather trying to ruin this family." Clara, surprisingly, was silent. I later found out she had called Ms. Evans directly, trying to charm her way into getting the codicil nullified, but Ms. Evans, ever the professional, had politely but firmly shut her down. The news of the codicil and its implications spread like wildfire through our extended family and community. The carefully constructed facade of my parents' perfect family began to crumble. Friends and acquaintances, who had always seen them as paragons of virtue, started to question things. The legal battle they had initiated against me, based on their claims of entitlement, now looked ridiculous and petty in the harsh light of my grandfather's clear instructions. The final blow came when a review of my mother's portion of the estate was completed. Based on her aggressive and manipulative attempts to claim my lottery winnings and the explicit wording in the codicil, a significant portion of her inheritance was indeed reallocated to the charities I chose. Specifically, a local art scholarship fund for underprivileged students and a program that provided art therapy for at-risk youth. The irony was not lost on me. My mother, who had always disparaged my artistic pursuits, was now indirectly funding them, and unable to stop IT.M why parents were publicly humiliated. Their carefully curated image was shattered. Clara's boutique, which my mother had so desperately wanted me to invest in, eventually failed due to her poor management and lack of genuine talent. She blamed me, of course, for not saving her, but I simply shrugged. It wasn't my responsibility.as for me. I used my lottery winnings and my grandfather's inheritance to fund my dreams. I quit my graphic design job and started my own art studio, focusing on the abstract and conceptual art I loved. I travel, I create, and I live my life on my own terms, free from the shadow of my family's expectations. I still don't speak to my parents or Clara. The estrangement is painful, but it's a necessary piece. My grandfather, in his wisdom, gave me not just money, but true freedom. He gave me a way to finally be myself, without apology or compromise. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. I often wonder what he would say if he saw me now. I like to think he'd just give me a knowing smile and a firm pat on the back, perhaps with a faint smell of oil and sawdust still clinging to his clothes.